I've done experiments, and the only way to reasonably degrade GH in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks was taping it to the outside of the window in a scorching summer.
Warning!
You're watching Dr. Todd Lee TV, where theoretically you could learn a bunch of cool shit.
Greetings, Earthlings. 'Tis I, Dr. Todd Lee, IFBB Pro, biochemist, and medical doctor. I am recording this a day late. A lot has happened on the internet this week. Holy schmoly. Most important thing was swept under the radar, which was the Daniel Pekic Janoshik interview. And on this, this got completely blown away by the Matt Jansen situation with Quinton and the subsequent exodus, as well as, of course, Mike Van Wyck attacking Jeff Nippert. This is really bizarre shit. Of course, my appearance on the Transparent podcast dropped today too. So with all the major events that are going on the internet, I hope that people still take the time to watch that episode of me on Niall's channel, Transparent. You could just Google Transparent Todd Lee or Transparent Niall Naga, and that should pull it up. It's a good interview. It's a lot more laid back and less formal than the table talk. You know, with table talk, it was like I was on Coruscant, pulled before Mace Windu and the rest of the Jedi Council. Whereas with Niall, he literally arranged it so that we just met 4 minutes before we started filming. So there was like no pre-established relationship. It was, we were getting to know each other. And we just clicked right off the bat. But the purpose of this video, because you're like, fuck you, clickbait boy, I want to know about GH. I'm going to summarize Janoshik, and I believe my editor and friend Josiah will put in the actual clips as much as he can without YouTube banning me, so you can hear it out of his mouth. Janoshik is the world's best person to send your gear to get it tested. So all these people are like, oh, Primo's fake, or oh, blah, blah, blah. They just basically repeat dumb shit other fucktards said, and then they think that they sound clever because they're in the know, and they're repeating some nonsense that hasn't been valid for like 15 years or 10 years or whatever. Usually guys as old as me, everything they say is wrong because they've never kept up with the times and situations have changed. But basically he addresses the term, he skips over the term generic gear and he calls it underground, which I'm the only person I know that calls it underground, because generic means there's no brand. Underground labs have their own brand. So it's nonsense to call GH that's not pharma grade generic if there is a brand. So there are top underground brand, just like everyone's talking out their ass about how fucking fantastic Primo is when they're using underground lab Primo. So let me get this straight. You trust China to make good Primo, but you don't trust China to make good GH?
But what is most important, and I have this from discussions with hundreds of athletes, when there's a GH that has a high dimer proportion, the people, they tend to get a lot more side effects from it. But what's actually interesting is the pharma limits. They're very permissive. Like, I believe they permit 4% of dimmer in the GH, but usually the 4% is insanely high compared to what I see usually. So the pharma limits in regard to the GH are much more permissive than the actual reality of underground GH is.
Well, he addresses the dimer content and the purity standards. The normal good underground lab GH, like Metatropin, tests at 98.6% pure and I believe 1% dimer. Now, I'm going to check my notes on the labs for this. Okay, so batch 126, which was like 7 batches ago, was 98.35% pure. Okay. The industry standard for pharmaceutical grade GH is 91% pure. Now, that doesn't mean that every batch is only 91% pure, but the standards for pharma grade are so fucking low that if an underground lab released something that shitty, it would be destroyed on the message boards, and that lab would go under. There is no mercy. That nobody would ever get away with fucking people over in 2024. If you watched the episode where Quentin and Antoine were talking about the fake gear bullshit with the Matt Jansen fiasco going on, that nobody gets fake gear anymore. It's too easy to test it through Janoshik and to prove that a company is selling bunk gear, which destroys their reputation and they will no longer make a living. There is no reason as a business person to cut corners and fuck over your customers when you are guaranteed to be caught and have your reputation destroyed. So for that reason, this doesn't happen. It's just not a thing. I think Quentin's exact words were on today's episode of AVP that out of 50 people, maybe 2 of them have bunk gear. And that doesn't mean it's 0% either. So the idea that the pharmaceutical companies only need to have 91% pure gear, near 91% pure GH, but the standard for the underground labs is like 98%. And then the dimer issue that Janoshik said the dimers where the side effects come from. Which side effects, I wonder? I've heard this too, but nobody seems to have a straight answer as to which side effects are caused by the dimers. Draw me a picture of the molecular dimer and what exactly are the side effects that are caused by said dimer? Does every dimer cause the same side effect in every person? Or is it there's a list of 4 potential side effects, and in different people, their genetics react to different dimers in different ways? I want to know about this. But guess what? Guess when it doesn't matter? When there are no fucking dimers. That's when it doesn't matter. So what I found was that Metatropin brand, on top of being 98.35% pure, has like a 1% dimer. And that's what Janoshik said, is that most of the underground labs, the good underground labs, are coming in at like 1% or less for the dimers. Whereas the industry standard for the pharmaceutical companies is 4%. So for people who are slower on the uptake, I'm going to try to spell this out. The pharma grade dinosaurs that insist pharma grade's better, 1, they're never pro bodybuilders. 2, the pharma grade's industry standard is 91% pure with a 4% dimer. Remember, purity is good, dimers are bad. And then the underground lab GH, the good stuff, the stuff I use, is 98 and change pure, and it's 1% or so dimer. So you'll see that I say on this podcast with Niall that I actually had better results on blood work with the underground labs than I did with the pharma grade. And he said, well, that's probably why people think you're crazy and said you're full of shit. I'm like, I never repeated that. That I said it was as good as, which is true. But what I never told anyone was that the pharma grade stuff didn't test as good as the underground stuff. That I had higher IGF-1 with the underground lab Metatropin, and I had less side effects with the Metatropin. And behind closed doors, a lot of these influencers that are pro Team Pharma, they also agreed with me that they had the same blood work, they had better results, and they had no side effects. But they don't want to lose their credibility with the community, and that they notice what happens to me when I tell the truth. People say I'm full of shit and hate on me, and that they want to build up their channels, so they tell people what they want to hear. They basically all join forces and push out a narrative like it's the American media, where they say the same buzz line on every channel so that people think that it's something they hear over and over again, so they believe it to be true. And then that way they feel comfortable with those channels. And then if I'm the one guy who's telling the truth, then people think I'm crazy and I'm wrong. I'm basically like the Daily Wire of anabolic pharmacology.
Greetings, Earthlings! Like, subscribe, and share this video. Share with a friend. Share with enemies. Share with people who think they know everything. I am a medical doctor, and I could be your doctor. Click the link in the description box. I can order you blood work. I can read the blood work. I can treat any illnesses. Basically, it's like an HRT clinic that's a one-man army. Also, I do coaching. Dr. Karina Dodson and I have a coaching business called Apex Coaching. So if you sign up with me, you get coaching, which is nutrition, programming, competition prep, or lifestyle coaching, as well as all the medical stuff. So you have two doctors in one business. It's going to be contest prep, the nutritionist, the programming person, and the doctor all in one. You can't beat it. It's integrated. It works the best that way. You'll love it. Make sure to do it. Click the link in the description box.
But here is my list from China of the batch numbers and the percentage purities and the amount that's in the bottles. And also, like, if you notice at the very top, these are like these are the incipients or excipients at the top. You'll notice that genotropin and norditropin use less excipients than metatrope. So the point is that these excipients are used to generate better results, that they basically are there to cancel out some of the side effects. And you'll notice also a lot of them are very similar. For instance, mannitol is in genotropin and in metatropin to offset the water retention. Glycine is in metatropin and genotropin. You can see how many milligrams are in each one of these vials, and you can see what percentage purity they are and which batch number. And they're on like batch 131, 132, 133. Hold on. Why should I guess, right? Okay, so here's one. This is batch 131. So I can't hold it up in front of the camera, of course, because this is all for entertainment purposes only. There's no discussion of actual growth hormone here. Here. Oh, that's all calamity. All right, so this is a pen of genotropin. I just double checked my findings. Here's the genotropin pen. I don't know if you can see this. And it is this. I used this, and it was in no way, shape, or form better than the metatropin. If anything, it was less effective. So you believe what you want to believe, but you heard it from Janoshik. This is the world's expert in testing. In case there's technical difficulties, this is the episode. It's Daniel Pekic, and it's the Janoshik episode. And it has timestamps. You can look right up about the purity, and he straight up says that the standards are much lower for the pharmaceutical company than where the underground labs are coming in at. Now, I want to clarify, that doesn't mean they're coming in at rock bottom. They could be coming in at 91% and a half of a milligram of a dimer, but the next batch may not. That it's going to be all over the place. So individual batches of different brands are going to be different. It's crazy how strong this shit's gotten in the past 6-7 years that I've been using this brand. And a lot of people are like, well, maybe if you used other brands, do you get better results? I just showed you physical evidence that I'm not dirt poor. This is right here, a genotropin pen. It was not as effective. Hold on. I'm not done with you yet. Here's a box of Serostim. This was not any better on blood work. I could share my screen and show you, but you'd have to take my word for it that I even filled out the blood work panel correctly. All I can prove to you is that I have an empty box of Serostim. So it's not like it's full and I never used it. Same thing with the Janoshik pen. It's like I can use this stuff and tell the difference. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been using growth hormone for 14 years. And the expert, the world's expert in testing this stuff, says that if anything, the quality is lower for the farm companies than the very best UGLs. Now, some caveats. Caveat number one, the UGL can still come in under that. Not all UGLs are created equal. There might be bad brands. Two, we have selection bias. The types of people that have the money to have their shit tested are the types of people that are sophisticated enough to find him. We're sophisticated enough to find good brands. And then they would only have the money to buy the good brands and have the money to pay him. People who are just dumb and just buy their shit at the gym, they don't know anything about brands, they might be getting bunk shit. I believe also in the same video, he addresses the fake gear thing and that there really is no fake gear, that most of the stuff he gets sent to him is real gear at the correct doses. And it's usually not contaminated with other stuff. But again, the sophistication level of the people that send him stuff is higher, and the sophistication, they would be sophisticated enough to find good gear in the first place. Also, the other thing, he disproves the myth that it needs to be refrigerated.
It is far more resilient than the vendors are telling people, because when something tastes bad or they don't feel effects from something, it's a really good fallback point, like something must happen during the transport. But that is not our experience. If it's a liquid GH, if it's already liquid and it's not properly preserved, then yeah, the transport can cause issues. But usually when the GH is lyophilized, but I've done experiments, and the only way to reasonably degrade GH in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks was taping it to the outside of the window in a scorching summer. So I find the likelihood of a significant degradation to be quite low.
That he said that some of the lower quality, lower preservative underground brands of GH might lose 1% potency per 3 months that they sit out. And so if it's 2 years old, it might have degraded by 6 or 7%. So if you had it as 98% pure, after 6 or 7 years, it's now 91% pure. It's still as equal as the threshold for the pharmaceutical brands. So it's like, it's so funny. So stale as fuck, ultra expired underground labs gear is still good enough to be sold as Serostim or Genotropin. But all of these fucking primo Gucci people out there who think they're so fucking clever and they're so much better than everyone else because they're spending more money, they are so up their own ass about this pharmaceutical crap. It's like, why on earth would you ever trust a United States pharmaceutical company in 2024? They're literally like the most evil people on earth. It's like, why don't you take your kids to the Anakin Skywalker daycare? Well, that's would be like trusting your body and your health to the pharmaceutical companies. The only person I know who advocates for the pharmaceutical companies lies to people and tells them he works for the pharmaceutical companies. Oh, and yes, you're correct. That's who it was. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go on to a live broadcast. I just wanted to shoot this one out there so you people stopped wasting your fucking money on farm grade shit when you could be using some good underground stuff. I know it's this weird topsy-turvy world, but hey, that's how fucking weird this world we live in is. Mike Van Wyck just attacked Jeff Nippard in the fucking gym. And where one of the top coaches in the whole world had his whole fleet of athletes leave in one day. That all happened today. In the past 48 hours, Janoshik dropped this shit. Mike Van Wyck attacked Jeff Nippard. All of Matt Jansen's clients left him. And my video on transparent dropped, and I'm actually nice, but no one's going to see that video because so much more important shit happened today. So I had to make this video summarizing the important part of the Janoshik, is because Janoshik, handsome devil, seems like a sweet kid, doesn't speak English super well. You might have a hard time understanding him. So I'm paraphrasing for you. So 1, you leave the shit out, doesn't matter. 2, if you leave it out for 2 or 3 years, it'll still probably be higher quality than the pharma grade shit that all the Gucci queens like to use. All right, have a good one. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Fusion Regenerative Therapies, where I am the Director of Human Performance. This is the practice in which I practice medicine. We will be able to order you blood work and read your blood work and help you with therapy as needed based upon the results of your blood work. Please click the link to get a consult with me, and I can help you optimize your performance. Thank you.